one. This was a little child, 2 or 3 years old, who passed from cancer. And I believe she lived in the UK. And she wanted her parents to know that in spirit, her illness is over.
Oh, if that doesn't make you cry, nothing can. Yeah, that's beautiful.
I know. I have chills
Yeah.
while we're talking about it.
Oh, bless her. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Spiritual Talk. My guest today is Ellisa Beaver. Hi, Alisa, and welcome to the channel.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Me too, because we've never done this topic. Can you tell us, you're a practitioner in instrumental transcommunication. Can you tell everybody at home what that means?
Instrumental Transcommunication, or ITC, is a broad term of phenomena of receiving electronic voice messaging or visual images, both which are spirit realm created, and we receive them on our electronic devices.
Wow.
Today I'm going to share specifically about electronic voice phenomena and explain in what instances it can be used in communication, because it does go beyond communication with our departed loved ones.
That is pretty amazing. I'm so excited. You brought some examples along today. We are going to share screen later, guys, to listen to some of those examples. But before we go too much further, Alisa, how did you get into this?
I got into it some years after my 17-year-old son passed. My son had cancer age 14 to into nearly 18 years old. And after I got out of my years of like in bed depression,
Yeah.
I wanted to search on where he was. Did he exist? Where are you? I'm going to find you, and I'm going to continue my relationship with you, because this is how I survive. This is how I survive loss. So initially, I did a number of mediumship development courses, and I did pretty well with it, but it's not where I'm naturally gifted. I'm strong in some areas, but not in others, so I actually don't or didn't accomplish the seeing and the clairaudience. So the way I hear spirit is through the electronic voice phenomena, which a classmate of mine had mentioned, and I was so open to every single thing at the time that I joined a group where they were recording electronic voice phenomena. And I started just as a listener, where you're wearing headphones, you're listening to these audio clips and saying what you hear or validating what you hear. And I went on later to, this was in 2016, to record myself. Initially, I just was solely focused on reaching and hearing from my son, which I did accomplish pretty early on.
Wow.
And once you receive an electronic voice message, or at least for me, you're hooked. You just want to do it, do it, do it. And the more you do it, the more days, hours, years, dedication, practice, your ability, at least in my experience, it grows and grows and grows, and you have the other side assisting you and noticing you, even as a person they can come through. And it's absolutely mind-blowing, and incredible. And I'm really excited to share it with your viewers, because even though it's been a phenomenon that has been recognized since the invention of electronics, so for decades, or more than 100 years, um, not very many people know about it, and or they know about it from a TV show about ghost hunting, or
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
they know about manufactured things like ghost boxes or apps, and I don't do any of that. Like, I'm reaching high, I'm reaching
Yeah.
for loved ones, and I will get into other communication that I do as well as share examples of that.
Well, first of all, we're sorry for your loss. But that drive and commitment to try to connect on a different level is amazing, is brilliant. The actual EVP, are you using a certain type of machine? Is it a spirit box?
No, no.
Okay.
I try to keep this really pure and as authentic as possible. So I don't want anything pre-made or manufactured. So I use a regular recorder. For me, it's called WavePad, but it's just a sound recorder that you can record anything.
Yeah.
And uh, I don't fully know, and I don't believe anybody does, how the phenomena is actually created. I have some ideas, but it's mostly the spirit side that's doing everything. So on my side, what I do is I mentally connect with who I'm connecting with,
Yeah.
and then I record a very quiet sound, which can be a white noise, just a shh. And that sound can come from me moving my hand in water. And voice, they will create through my sound a voice that either sounds like a person speaking in water or underwater, but you don't fake, there's no words in water. So you've got an accurate EVP when you are just moving water quietly, recording it into your recorder, and you don't hear the messages in real time, you hear them on playback. So on playback, you're wearing headphones, and just taking a few seconds at a time to listen through what you've recorded. And then when you hear a word, you focus there, and clip and save and pick up your message. And normally there's a number of them, so it's almost like receiving a letter or a one-way conversation. Um, but so water sounds is an example. Um, White noise, sometimes people just use a fan. Sometimes I just rub my hand on a fabric. It could even be the sleeve of my shirt. Just shh. And the words are created through there. An
So
important point about
there needs to be a background noise then, and the background noise is what they
yes,
work with.
you support them. You support them more by providing a background sound that they can work with. If you try to record in silence, or I never did this, but often, or more years past, people had success with digital recorders where they will turn a couple of digital recorders on and leave them in a room. One recorder will pick up the EVP, the other will not,
Right.
which is interesting. But the internal noise, perhaps in the machine, is helpful for them. But if you record in silence, it's a lot of effort for them to come up with a sound,
Okay.
um, to make um, to make it so, what we give them, where, that's supportive, I guess.
Yeah.
And, um, another, I'm going to be sharing examples of a white noise EVP, as well as, what we call a gibberish EVP. That's a sound source where we take a human vocal,
Mhm.
um, like, let's just say I'm myself talking, or you have a recording, maybe even of your loved one when they were here.
Yeah.
If you have a clean recording of them speaking, you, can create gibberish, and gibberish is nonsense. It's just little noise, like nothing. There's no detectable words in it.
Yeah.
So you make gibberish by slicing, dicing into tiny fragments and rearranging. Um, so it just sounds like human vocal noise or gibberish. And that makes a more clear voice, when we offer gibberish,
Yeah.
a more human sounding voice versus, an electronic sounding voice. But the voice we receive is not going, in general, it is not going to sound the same as our loved one when they were physically here, because it's not their speaking voice. It's a spirit created voice. So what we go by to validate it is, like, if you, um, ask a question and it's answered, or the context, the content, how we feel when we hear it. Does it resonate? Does it validate? We kind of go by that.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I don't care what the voice sounds like, as long as I can hear the words. Um, that's how I feel about it. Is we just want to receive what they're sharing.
I guess you must have that communication with your own son. Do you often communicate with your son?
Um, Not so much now. Uh, he's not. He's actually not super easy for me to reach, lately.
Okay.
Mostly, I do a lot of work in experiments, and I do a lot of work recording for other people. So if I record for somebody else, and they want to be in touch with their child in spirit, their mother, their husband,
Yeah.
whoever it is, by my connecting with that individual, I'm automatically connected with their loved one.
Yeah.
So I will work on their behalf, and then deliver via email, or however they want, all the audio responses I receive from their loved one. Um, and That's mostly what I'm doing. But I
Wow.
will, as I show you examples, we'll get pretty deep into what's possible, with this technique.
I mean, it sounds pretty amazing, but do they ever give you a little insight into what it's like? Are they quite simplistic
Yes,
messages? Oh, they do.
yes.
Oh, oh,
Um, I mean, little nuggets. I've got thousands and thousands in my files on my computer now, of, EVP messages. And, over the years, little tidbits come about, what they can do, who they see, who they're with, like that
wow.
type of information will. And it seems that the youngest children and babies are the most freely the ones who are speaking about how it is outside of
Wow.
our realm.
Wow. Lots of questions on that. So, do you keep a log of all this information? Do you keep like a private index, like to kind of look back on and keep some of this stuff for, for your own? library, if you
I
like.
don't really have a log. Like I said, I have thousands of these recorded over a number of years, but I do have ability to search words. So let's just say I want to know all the messages about heaven. Then I'll just type in heaven, and all my EVP responses that mention heaven will come up, and I can
Wow.
look at that.
Oh, okay.
It's filed on my computer in a way
Oh,
that
great.
I can do a search, and it probably would be super interesting. Animals are mentioned a lot, and and other loved ones are also mentioned a lot, and loved ones who the person or baby didn't know in their physical life, but they
Yeah.
will speak of being with them on spirit side.
Ah, that's wonderful. What about, and this is a very difficult subject, those that commit suicide? Let's play devil's advocate here, because some people won't believe in this. Some people don't believe in the spirit world. They don't believe that life is eternal. It's easy for me to sit here as a medium and know this and experience this, and I've had similar conversations. But some people believe that when you commit suicide, that you get stuck somehow. There's a purgatory. You're stuck in between. It's nonsense, isn't it?
Um, I believe so. I believe it's nonsense. I have not had any difficulty communicating, and I did not long ago, some months ago, record for a mother who um, believed, I think a medium had indicated that her daughter was stuck.
Ah,
And the daughter very clearly told us on EVP that she's not stuck and that she's free.
that's wonderful.
So, did I answer your question there?
Yeah, really, yes, because I think there's a certain, whether it's a belief system or from religion or ideology. Some people believe that when we take our own life, that we kind of get stuck in this place, that we've got to come back again quickly. That people that commit suicide, well, all sorts of things. There's so many things I can think of, but it's not like that, is it? From my experience, people that commit suicide can come through just as much as somebody who died of natural causes. It doesn't matter how we pass.
Um,
The fact is, we're all
I
going to the same place.
Yeah, in my experience, I would agree with that. This could be, or I'll get to it, a good segue into a situation where earlier this year, in March this year, my mother did it, not suicide, but she did medical assisted dying, which
Okay.
is legal in the United States in the state where she lives.
Yeah.
So she deliberately ended her life on a certain day at a certain time. And originally, I was going to be with her during this process with the doctor bedside, giving her a drink she would take that would cause her body to die. But my mother decided she wasn't ready that week. So
Yeah.
I went home and my mother did it the following week. And when I knew for certain, because I was in contact with my family bedside, that she had taken the drink and she had fallen asleep. And and then you just wait. I think it took in total maybe 1 hour for her body to die. But I recorded EVP with her right during the process, right what we would call the dying process. So I connected with her about 40 minutes before she was sleeping,
Okay.
um, before her body passed, and my mother leading up to doing this pretty brave, thing.
Yeah.
She had a number of conversations with me where she was worried that my son Matthew in spirit would not be there to cross her over. That was one of her primary fears. And one of her second primary fears was that she wouldn't like it on the other side.
Okay.
Um, so we had a number of talks about that, and she left several EVP messages while she was dying, deliberately dying. But my favorite, which I'm going to share, is she says just simply 4 words: have Matthew, meaning she's got my son with her, and she said, I'm home.
Oh, beautiful.
Have Matthew, I'm home. So that was the best possible message, and it means her wishes and her transition were as she wanted, and obviously she felt home.
Yeah.
And it was really spectacular and very comforting.
Yeah. That sounds wonderful in a kind of unusual way, but I kind of think, gives you a lot of comfort and reassurance that you've had that communication straight away.
It does, and I want to mention as well where this is different from mediumship
Yeah.
is that EVP recordings can be used, and I've done it a whole bunch of times. It's a special interest of mine to record the living. I do recordings with physically living persons who are not verbal for whatever reason. Like they never, one example I'll share is a child with severe Down syndrome who
Okay.
never was verbal in her life. And I'm able to receive verbal messages for her mother, who's her caretaker.
Wow.
Um, from that, I've done a number of elderly parents with Alzheimer's disease who cannot effectively communicate. I've done it with a baby in the womb. I've
Oh,
done it with people during surgery under general anesthesia. So we can learn, like, what are you aware of during surgery?
yeah.
And on some level of your consciousness, who's visiting you during the surgery, what's happening. I've done that recently as well, and I've also done not much, just like a handful of experiments with living animals,
Oh, wow.
which I can share as well. So I think there's potential for the living, and there's potential for animal communication with EVP as well.
Wow. That's all I'm going to say to that.
Yeah, no, wow. I mean, it sounds very science fiction and very impossible. Um, and really, you have to experience it and learn and educate yourself. Because I'm the first one to say that it sounds preposterous, and because it does, but I can truly, genuinely say this is a very real phenomenon. And like I mentioned, for your viewers, I can share a documentary, a real fascinating documentary that looks at the history and the legitimate scientists who want to
Yeah.
debunk it,
Yeah.
who get into it and they find that it's legitimate and they can do it themselves.
So have you heard of the guy? There was an old guy, and I'm going back some time ago now, and there was an old gentleman in some village up a mountain somewhere in Italy that used an old-fashioned radio that had no elements in it, and he would create white noise. And he would literally have an audience of 50, 60 people there, and all these ladies are there,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly you're here, Luigi, it's Mama, and then oh my gosh, this comes. Oh, it's amazing. So I've heard of it once,
Yes,
and I've seen it on a documentary once. This stuff is pretty amazing.
yes. I believe I don't remember the first name, if it's Marcello. His last name is Bacci.
Ah, okay.
Bacci, he is in the documentary film. And yes, in his day, he was very famous and very genuine. And I would assume spirit is using the noise of radio sound in between stations or
Yeah.
internal noise
Yeah.
to come through. But there have been instances I'm aware of where your electronics are not plugged in, but yet they can still be used. People used to use, like cassette recorders or radio. I have not done this, but what Bocce and others do, it's called direct radio. I think DRV, maybe direct radio voice. Um, and that's a back and forth conversation, which is even more sophisticated,
Wow.
in real time.
Wow. And that stuff is out there. So this stuff is really real. In your
Hmm.
background, though, Elisa, do you have a science background at all?
No, I mean, I have a psychology background, but not science, and I struggle with technology, and so I'm pretty, pretty basic, with it.
I feel your pain. Yeah, you saw me when we first come on the podcast. I couldn't get my camera to work properly. So yeah, and the more advanced I
Yeah,
get, the worse I get. Yeah, I feel your pain. But there is so much there that science now is starting to discover. And having come across this must have been a wonderful healing opportunity for you.
yeah. It it was critically important for my healing, and it continues to help me heal, to help others to do so.
Yeah. And in terms of loved ones around you, like your partner, how did he feel about this when he started to hear this? When he started to hear the voices?
He was very open. Um, he's a spiritual person, and he has some mediumistic, I guess, ability, as does my
Oh,
living Earth daughter has as well. Um, some clairvoyance and stuff that he experiences, or physical touches and things. So he was open. I would say the toughest critics that I had to kind of hammer all of this with for a couple of years was my mother and my dad, who
yeah.
truly thought I had lost my mind and was crazy. And they believed that dead is dead, dead is nothing, you disintegrate and it's over. I'm happy that over the years, as my parents have grown older, that I was able to get them to finally, see the evidence and hear it in a way that they accept it as true, which, at least for my mother, my father's still with me, but with my mother, it helped ease, terrifying fear of death
Yeah.
that she had previous to knowing that there's more.
Yeah, sure, sure. Shall we share some of the voices that we have?
Yes. One thing that I try to validate is that they sent, whether or not the other side, outside of our realm, sends these messages through a technology station, because I have learned from others who are more established than me in this area, that this isn't a one-on-one loved one, you know, that, like, my grandma passes and she suddenly knows how to do this. I think it's
Yeah.
a big collective effort of many people or souls or intelligences, human or not human, and a technology center that exists outside of our space and time.
Okay.
So on this first EVP, I reach out, and you'll hear my voice first speaking, and I'll ask if the station if they can acknowledge that they hear me, and they respond that they're ready to help me. And I will play that now. Would a communicator from the station please acknowledge if you can hear me?
Wow.
Would a communicator from the station please acknowledge if you can hear me? So that one is a very clear voice, and I used gibberish noise, which is why the voice sounds more natural, human. Another one related. Oh, here we go. This was a random message I received where the spirit side says they want a sound to make EVP, like they're asking me for it.
Ah. Would that have been a female, though? I know it sounds a bit light or higher, but is that because the limited noise that was available?
They're working with what sound is available. Sometimes I get a masculine sound when I use a feminine gibberish. I think it just gets distorted and altered. Again, I guess I don't put too much weight on what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But for people who, for some people, it's too painful to hear the earthly voice, particularly of their child.
Yeah.
Some really want to, and it feels more real to them. So if they can provide me voice messages or a recording of a speech or a toast or something their loved ones spoke that they have, I can get it sliced and scrambled up into noise. And not always, but often, if I use that as a sound, some of the messages or words that will come through will sound very familiar to them, as being their loved one's voice or the essence of their loved one's voice. But other than that, it can happen because I think the other side will try their best to create a recognizable communication with what they have.
Wow.
Okay, so here, this is going to be a picture of my mother a couple of weeks before she passed. And this is not her voice, but she's not yet, quote, dead. She's still, her body is still alive during this recording. And I am connecting with her consciousness on some level.
Yeah.
And she will say to me, well, you'll hear, have Matthew, I'm home.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, play one more time.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and then this example is a friend of mine. I used to attend in-person meetings through an organization called Helping Parents Heal, which you may have heard of.
Yes.
And my friend had a son in spirit, and I mentioned her daughter, Jill, who has severe Down syndrome. And Jill was about 30 years old at the time, and she doesn't speak. So her mother was excited and willing for me to try to do an experiment. And with living people and animals, I do the recordings when they are asleep.
Okay.
I'm not sure it works when the human or animal is consciously awake. So when I know Jill is asleep, I record it, and it's not a single message we get, it's many messages. But here, I have to just share it in little
Sure.
pieces. But on playback, one of the messages I heard did not make sense to me, but it made perfect sense to Jill's mother. And I'm going to play it and then I'll explain. Yes, so that's a drawing of Jill. So when I delivered the message again to Jill's mom, and I didn't know what it meant, and Jill's mom got so animatedly excited. Alisa, oh my God! She said, "I just took Jill shopping for new shoes, and she's really hard to fit because she's got a short, wide foot." And I was thinking, oh, she can wear these without socks. I hope
Yeah.
they're comfortable. So here, Jill can't speak, but here in EVP, she can tell her mom that those are her best shoes and that they're very comfortable.
Yeah.
So that was like for her mother, just dead on validation.
Has
And
has anybody else done that with Down syndrome, people that are non-verbal? Because this could be a really interesting, I don't want to say experiment, but it kind of is a discovery.
it's I don't. Um, I know that afterlife researcher Sonia Rinaldi
Yes.
has in her career done it. It's from me hearing about Sonia doing it that I wanted to experiment and try it.
Hmm.
And I don't know if anybody besides me. I mean, I don't know a lot of people who do this anyway, but this is a special interest. So when I have opportunity, um, I'm in Arizona in America. I even was able to receive from somebody's mother who is in an Alzheimer's care home in Japan.
Oh, wow.
Um, she doesn't speaks limited English, but the messages will come through in the language that the receiver understands.
Yeah.
So, and her daughter speaks English. So, a lot of them about her awareness of who her caregiver, who was visiting her, how comfortable or not comfortable she is in the home. That type of
Yeah.
information was coming through
Yeah.
for her
Uh,
daughter.
that's beautiful.
Sometimes we are lucky because a first and a last name will come through. And this came through very recently just as a surprise. My father in law's name is Bud Beaver, and it just simply said, Bud Beaver here.
Wow.
Yeah, so now I have no question as to who popped in.
Yeah.
Um, okay. I have a little bit more. Is it okay if I
Yeah. Carry on.
continue?
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Um, Recently, just in the last couple of weeks, I'm going to share something personal, but I think it will be very helpful to a lot of your viewers.
Yeah.
I had a dream visit from a child of mine from a pregnancy that I lost in very early weeks, many, many years ago. And this little girl came. It was a dream visit, very vivid, and she was holding the hand of what I perceived as a guardian, and she in the dream got excited, saw me, pointed at me, and she said, "You're my mom." And
Oh,
she ran and hugged around my legs, and I picked her up, and she looked at me and again said, "You're my mom." Um, when I woke up, I felt, like, really, because I never saw her. Um, and I thought I would use EVP to validate whether it was a dream visit or just a dream.
yeah.
And so I went on to talk to this little girl, out loud and in my mind. And I told her that I loved her, and then I recorded EVP, and I received a lot of validation that she had dropped into the dream. But as I mentioned, she said, or I told her that I loved her. And in this picture is what she looked like in my dream, and this is what she said. How would you say the girl is? How would
Oh,
you say?
oh, that's beautiful.
Very sweet. And then what's interesting as well is that a dog I had many years after the loss of this pregnancy, I considered it my son Matthew's dog. So the picture is Matthew with the dog, and I'll play what she said.
Love it.
So, how interesting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I assume they'll pet Jenny, they're referring to the dog, and she is so cute. And actually, it was 3 sentences. It was too long to clip it all together, but she said, "They'll pet Jenny. She is so cute. I love her." That was the
Oh,
full statement. So, so that was really nice. And then, okay, I've got four more. All right, here
fantastic.
we go. This is part of a session that I did for another mother, and her son in spirit's given her some tough love. And here we go. When I follow up or when we talk, kind of like, you know, because the validation of this doesn't come from me. I deliver it. I'm not saying I have your son. That's for the mother to validate. And so I like to follow up and see how the messages are resonating with who I'm working, to
Yeah.
help. And in this case, the mother told me that she had been spending a number of months not leaving her home and staying in bed, which I can relate to. But here,
Yeah.
it's her voice saying, "Stubborn, out of bed, like get out of bed, mom."
But that's so empowering, though. It's a jolt. He knows that. He knows
It
what she's
is,
going through. And it's so powerful for her and healing as well at the same time.
yeah, yeah. It's yeah, absolutely. On this one, this was a little child, 2 or 3 years old, who passed from cancer. And I believe she lived in the UK. And she wanted her parents to know that in spirit, her illness is over.
Oh, if that doesn't make you cry, nothing can. Yeah,
I
that's
know.
beautiful.
I know. I have
Yeah.
chills while we're talking about it.
Oh, bless her.
Um, okay, so um, I'm gonna finish up with a couple more. This is going to be a different sounding voice. I'm not. I'm not sure I don't remember what sound I was using, but it was not gibberish.
Okay.
And I was speaking to my own son. This is something I recorded a long time ago. And you'll hear me ask him, which I'm doing into my recorder. I'm asking him something to the effect, because he did have aggressive cancer, if he was suffering in his body before he died. And he responds to me that it's come the perfect way. He means his death came the perfect way. Matthew, were you suffering in your body before you died? Matthew, were you suffering in your body before you died? I don't know if you can hear. That
Yeah.
sounds a little more like a rough whisper.
Yeah.
But that was Matthew and I and the dog Jenny. And I
So
had also asked him if we.
yeah, I
Oh,
was gonna
I'm
say
sorry. I just also had asked Matthew in that session
yeah.
if we had planned it as souls, um,
Ah,
the experience. And he said it was an action. We did it right. And I do have in my files a number of validations, because I resist personally that we plan the suffering and our challenges, but over and over again in these EVPs, I get confirmation from my own family connections, as well as other people's children, that this is a planned experience on Earth.
it's interesting, isn't it? And we interviewed Robert Schwartz on the program, and obviously
Oh,
he termed obviously the soul planning idea that him and there's a few others, Brian Weiss, I believe, as well. Same life, many
yeah.
same soul, many lives. And yeah, it's an interesting concept. I've actually met people that have sat on the couch behind me that have come for readings or consultations that have told me they remember choosing their parents. It's not a common thing. I can think in over 10 years, two people. But it's an interesting concept, isn't it? That we choose these aspects and experiences for ourselves. Why would we choose such a difficult life? It's interesting, isn't it?
It's uh, it is interesting, and I'm anxious to get to the other side and understand it, because from a human perspective, and especially a human mother, um, it's unimaginable that we would choose to suffer
Yeah.
um, as we do. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. I think I'm at the part where I want to share about the dogs.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Then this is the end of my sharing. All right. This was an experiment with my current living dog. She has a behavior where she barks and fusses, and just gets a little agitated when my husband gives me a hug or a kiss or leans to speak to me. And she loves my husband, and we didn't really understand the behavior. So one day recently, when she was asleep on my bed, I asked her silently in my mind why she behaves this way. And because I need to record why she's asleep, and she's a German Shepherd that's super alert, I just made a quiet sound, and I was rubbing the fabric of my shirt and recording that sound into my recorder, and in my mind speaking to the sleeping dog. And I asked her, why do you do this?
Oh.
um, I hope that comes through okay. It's what sound source I had available to do it, but she distinctly answered the question.
Yeah.
I want you all mine.
Yeah.
So it's a possessive reaction from the dog. And then they said other things. that dogs would say. This is how we're going to end it.
Ah.
Now play ball with dad. Um, so, yeah.
Perfect.
So obviously, it's possible to ask and receive questions and answers from our
Yeah.
animals, living and past, as well.
It's interesting because as mediums, we talk to people and say, well, look, ask these questions, go home and talk to your loved ones and look for synchronicity, whether that's in dreams or signals or signs or feathers for confirmation, and here we are, you're asking these questions and you're actually getting a sound response in a recording. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's it's tangible because not just I hear it, but anyone who's carefully listening can hear it, and it's direct communication from
Yeah.
them to us.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's pretty spectacular.
So,
It's
I mean,
absolutely miraculous.
so coming back to your equipment, what as amateurs, could we delve into this world ourselves, and how could we do this?
I was lucky to have mentors. I think mentorship um, is the ideal way to do it because there's a lot of adjusting and experimentation that goes on, and also you've got to play with like the sound volume. You need to record very, very soft, just like a soft mumble or just a little noise like this,
Yeah,
and then amplify it. And sometimes when you record, and then there's nothing, like you play back and listen to the whole thing, break it up into seconds, and you hear no audible
yeah,
words.
yeah,
Other times it's filled with talking, but I people do it so many different ways, and some set up digital recorders, some get the gibberish and play it, and then you want to do it real quietly. You do have to amplify it so your own human ears can hear. If you're going to record EVP yourself or receive EVP from me or another person, it's important to know that the messages come through with different classes of audibility. So in the same recording, I might get some that are very easy to hear, some that you have to play, maybe on repeat for some of the words to pop out to you. We classify them as class A, B, or C. And obviously, we wish and we strive to have as much class A EVP as possible. But what's important is we want to hear everything that they have to tell us. So, going to the effort of purchasing headphones or having a special earpiece to listen is a practice for listening to EVP. In today's presentation, I tried to put through a number of them that are pretty clear so they'll come across on the presentation. But but just know it's normal to hear words easily or with some that require repetition. With the link to the documentary, and I've written a paper, but I find that it is very time consuming and it's labor intensive, because you have to listen to like 3 seconds at a time, and you invest, maybe it takes an hour or 2 hours to
yeah,
listen through a 2 or 3 minute long recording. And then when you find a sentence, you clip it and you save it. And it takes time to develop ability to reach who you want to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there are occasions when people maybe are first starting out where you might hear something that doesn't sound nice. I call it the meanies.
Okay.
That's it's possible. It does happen sometimes. I truly just ignore it and move on. I just don't want to put any attention if I were to hear something not nice.
So,
Um,
okay, just a slight deeper dive into that because I don't want to put fear into people. I mean, there's good and bad
no, there's no
in
point.
everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's good and bad in all things, and I guess there's going to be people that are not so great over there. There is as there is here potentially. Who knows? But uh, as long as you're in control, that's the main thing. There's nothing here that's going to affect you, or people will think all sorts of imaginings like, oh, it's going to make bring this dark entity to my house. It's not going to do anything like that.
I think that you attract a negative experience if you worry. And if you're in an insecure place where that's a worry of yours, I wouldn't recommend you do this.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and that's where having a mentor is also important because my mentor told me that it's just like you accidentally dialed the wrong phone number.
yeah,
Just hang up and move on.
yeah,
I don't need to bless my space, protect my space, sage my space. They're not even in our time space.
yeah,
They're in realms outside of ours.
yeah.
So so truly, I just well, I mean, nowadays I don't even think about it. I just brought it up because that's something that occasionally I
Yeah.
experienced as a new person.
The
And Sonia Rinaldi, who a lot of people have heard of because she's so
yeah.
prominent in her work, um, she said that when she started recording for voice, she didn't hear a message for more than 2 years.
Wow.
Um, I mean, I did it pretty quickly, but I think everybody's experience is going to be different. But
Sure.
Sonia herself had told me that because she received an EVP about me, she received one from a parapsychologist who was kind of a pioneer in the field of EVP back in his day. He passed away, I think, in the 1970s, and his name
Okay.
is Konstantin Radova. And she had received a message recording with him, and he said in Portuguese, which is her native language, that he was listening to Alisa. And
Wow.
I had done a workshop with Sonia Rinaldi. I didn't speak to her about what I did. I was learning to record images in the workshop, but somehow they put it together and then followed up and asked me. Um, and Sonia had indicated that what it meant is that I'm like a beacon or a target, or
Ah.
they're aware. They on the other side are aware, and they're saying that they're listening to me. And when I receive that communication, whether it's coincidental or not, because I don't really believe in coincidence, um, my ability to receive and do more and get more went like noticeably up.
Wow.
Um, so I don't know if I'm right because I just am an independent person who works, but um, I think that this is almost has to be a daily practice,
Yeah.
and you just need to stay with it. And probably connecting with your own loved one
Sure.
is where you start in your practice. And it was after I had done that for a couple or more years that I started to reach out and say, would you mind if I try to connect with your loved one? Um, and started to do these experiments, and they were working.
Yeah.
And so off we go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's brilliant. And the intelligence of spirit never fails to, some of the things that are out there in terms of I don't know if you know, have heard of the skull experiment, where
Hmm.
they were using film, and they were just unwrapping the film, putting it on the old film used to put in the cameras, guys, putting it on a table, doing the circle, and then coming back, and then they would open the film, and you could see all these faces in each different face in each frame. That's just amazing. And it's a similar thing here. Again, it's evidence that life exists beyond the physical, which is brilliant. And your work is absolutely fantastic. I'm really excited because you've agreed to come on. You've got a slightly different presentation you're going to do for us another time. And I'm really quite excited about that. So look out for that, guys. Ellisa, we've been going for over an hour now, and we can't thank you enough for coming on Spiritual Talk. But can I ask you before you go, what other projects are you doing? I know you're doing some interesting other work as well in the background.
Oh, I also work on receiving spirit images, and I'm not sure, you can maybe see some of my equipment in the back, but
Okay.
similar to voice messages, these are spirit created images where they use what I offer in a background to create what they want us to see. So I work with fabrics, lights, vapor, water, and and that's images. That's also part of instrumental transcommunication,
Oh,
and
wow.
something I'd be happy to come and share with you in another show.
Yeah, we would love that. We would love that. So stay tuned for that, guys. Look out for that coming in the near future. But for now, is there anything else you're looking to work on? I know you do other areas as well, like animal communication. Is there anything else you're looking to move into the next?
Um, I think I just would like to further my experiments with the living,
Yeah,
um, and have more opportunities to record living people under different situations. If they're
yeah,
having a surgery, they're in a coma, they have Alzheimer's disease, or some way to give feedback to family caregivers who are caring for a child or a parent who's unable to speak for themselves. And I think another aspect of that is helpful besides receiving the communication is being able to hear from them what they're experiencing, because we so often look at them in the bed and we see suffering,
yeah.
when in fact we may hear them say that in their experience in the bed, they're walking in nature, as one I've heard, or they're seeing loved ones that we don't see.
Yeah.
And it's a comfort for the living, and that's really what this is mostly about.
That kind of work would also, I imagine, you would need volunteers for people that would be really interested in working and experimenting on those subjects. Are you looking for people to work with? Is that something you're actively seeking?
Yes,
Simple. How can we
it is.
find you?
I want to further experiment and research and validate and get feedback and see how much this can be used as a tool to assist living persons who and help our fellow human who can't verbally articulate,
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah,
any reason at all.
yeah. Yeah. Would this be more American, because you're based in the US? Would this be more US based? Because if you start getting requests from China, don't blame me. Okay. But you never know. People might see
Uh,
this wherever they are
I
in the
can
world.
work with I can work with somebody wherever you are in the world, and that's what I do.
Oh,
With
brilliant.
my EP work. We only need ability to speak to one another in English, so I understand you, and so I'm going to receive your messages in English. Uh, as long as we can have a phone chat and speak English with each other, and you can hear and understand English back, then we're good. And it doesn't matter if you're in Africa, China, India, Europe, anywhere, it's fine.
Where can we find you? On Facebook?
I do have a Facebook group. It's called Healing Grief with EVP. And I mostly share all of my work on a website called Patreon, and I'll give you a link to that.
Yeah. Oh,
You can now join Patreon for no cost. You can join for free. And I like to share my work because I can best present it in context with all the communication together, the method I used, and the background. And I try to make it a very educational uh, place where you can go learn and listen and see my images as well.
fantastic.
So
Oh,
if you
well,
go on patreon.com and search my name, Ellisa Beaver, you can join me there too.
great. Don't worry, guys. I'll put the link in the comments below. Alisa, thank you so much for coming on. We can't thank you enough. It's been really enjoyable and really interesting, especially hearing those voices from the other side. You know, and as much as it might, some of them might not have been as clear as possible, there is a magic there. We are crossing almost into another realm. We kind of, it always feels a little bit like we shouldn't be, but there is this ability to do this, which is absolutely fantastic. We're defying science to be able to bring these messages, which is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I believe that they want this communication, that it's important to them as it is important to us.
Yeah.
And I see no negative, only growth and positive that comes from the pursuit of this.
Thank you so much. Guys, stay tuned. Lisa will be back very soon. We've got something else that we'd like to bring to you. So stay tuned for that. Look out for that, I should say. And we'll see you back on here very soon. Take care, everybody. And just in case this doesn't go out to Christmas, Merry Christmas, everyone, which is why they've got the old sparkly lights on behind us. Wherever you are in the world, Merry Christmas. Take care, everybody, and
Yes,
we'll see you again soon. Thank you, Lisa.
you're very welcome. Thank you.